Hello and welcome to Movie Watch Live with me, Pete Mack, and as usual, my two guests, which are Karl Hungus and Aldous Huxley. Tonight, we're watching a fan favourite fantasy classic retro movie, WILLOW from 1988, and that's directed by Ron Howard and stars Warwick Davis in the starring role. And so, without further ado, I'll just introduce my two guests. Good evening, Karl.
Hi there, Pete. How you doing, everybody? It's good to be here again, and we're looking forward to WILLOW tonight. And it may not be the symbological beacon that was Conan last week, but we're going to do our best, damn it.
Absolutely. And Huxley.
How you doing, everybody? Good to be back again. WILLOW this week. A very straight, narrow, linear journey down the hero's path. Not too much to really chat about, but there are some really neat things that we can talk about with regards to the story and how it's built that are fairly well done in this film.
Absolutely. Now, before we go into the film, just to give everybody a chance to start the movie or find the movie, whichever you want to watch it, whether it's DVD or a live stream or you want to buy it on YouTube or whatever. I'm just going to make a quick mention of an actor who's recently passed away just a couple of days ago that you might know of, Albert Finney, who was one of the greatest actors of stage and screen and has recently passed now. Albert Finney in many film roles over the years, and if you haven't seen Albert Finney on cinema, then you haven't watched many movies, I have to say, because most of the things you'll have seen over the years, unless you're very new to cinema, you will have seen Albert Finney in one of them. And I think of movies such as Tom Jones, which is what he was most famous for. That really made his name back in 1963. But also, as Karl mentioned, he's been in other movies such as Annie, and he was in films like Big Fish more recently, and his younger counterpart, played by Ewan McGregor, but also films such as a really good film, one of my favorites, Amazing Grace, which is a story about the emancipation of slavery, where he plays the character who actually composed the song Amazing Grace. But also as well, he was famously played the part of Scrooge in the musical version in 1970 of The Christmas Carol. Karl and Hungus, any thoughts about Albert Finney?
I just mostly remember him from Annie when I was a little kid and stuff. He was obviously much bigger in the UK than he was in the United States, but yeah, I mean, that's one of those names you always hear, but you're not really sure who he is until you look him up, and then you're like, oh, that guy, I remember him.
Yeah. So it's a sad loss, but a great actor. So I would encourage everybody on the back of this that when you've got the time, watch any of the many films he was part in. Recently he was in The Bourne Ultimatum, The Bourne Legacy. He was in A Good Year, which is quite a good film. Ocean's 12. Many films. So if you get the chance, do look him up and watch his work. So without further ado,
well, if I can just stop you real quick, you left out 1981's Wolfen.
Yes, I did. There you go. Good one, Hooks.
He was nominated for a Saturn Award for that performance. Yes. I mean, this is something that should not go without passing.
That's true, actually. Yes. So
Wolfen?
Yeah.
Is that like some werewolf movie or something?
It is. It's a more of a crime horror, I would say.
Yeah.
It's not a very good movie, but
it sounded like something Malin might like. I was just wondering.
It probably would be, actually.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So let's get started. So if you're ready with the film, whichever format you're going to watch it in, as usual, what I'll do is I'll count down from 3 to 1, and then I'll say go. And on the count of go, if you just go ahead and start the movie. So is everybody ready?
Yes, sir.
Ready.
Okay. So 3, 2, 1, go. Okay.
You realize No matter how hard we try, we're never going to get it synced properly.
Have you seen the meme of the MGM lion as Trump?
No, but that sounds hilarious.
Yeah.
Oh, there's our boy Richie Cunningham. Or
Yeah, it's filmed by Ron Howard. Yep.
Time of Dread.
Yes.
Uh-huh.
Seers have foretold the birth of a child.
And this is a very traditional trope with the destined usurper is born during the reign, and the tyrannical dictator searches for the child or the usurper. So
this also goes back to like the biblical model of Moses as well, doesn't it? In a way, it's
also King Herod and all that stuff too.
Yep.
Yeah. So
Pete brought up in the pre-show, the Jason and King Peleus.
Yep.
As well, you've got that heavy arc. I love the religious figures here in the heavy black robes and the beards.
Mm-hmm.
One thing I found interesting as well is that Sorsha, who is Queen Bavmorda's daughter, you can see already that she's not happy with this train of events. You know, the idea of killing the child.
Yeah. What else was she ever in? Because I only remember her from this one. This is the one that made the biggest impact on me as a prepubescent young man.
Yeah. Joanne Whalley. Yeah. Well, she was actually, amongst other things, she was involved in a punk band when she was really young. But she also played Christine Keeler in Scandal. Have you ever seen the 1989 movie Scandal, about the sex scandal in the British upper classes? It's I suppose more of a British film.
That's a little archaic for us colonials here.
Well, it's quite a good film, but she stars as the femme fatale in that. This is probably her most famous role.
Silence, wench.
Yes. Now this is the actress playing the actress playing Queen Bavmorda is Jean Marsh. Marsh, interestingly, we just mentioned Albert Finney. She was actually in a relationship with Albert Finney at one time. She was also married to the actor John Pertwee, who played one of the first 5 Doctors, Doctor Who. So she had quite an interesting personal life as well as.
Hey, here you go. Here's her traveling, and she's not spending 20 minutes going up a hill.
This is where the baby.
Conan.
Yeah, this is where this is montage working well, because the baby obviously grows. This is must be 2 months, because the baby's clearly growing during this time.
She's walking over mountains and shit with this kid.
Yeah.
Damn. Yeah, and it's got a full head of hair now. So yeah.
Yeah.
A cute little baby.
Yeah, it is. Now this child, the actors, because this often happens when you have a baby in a film, is played by I think 3 separate babies. There was twins and a separate baby, so 3 different infants. So this is a scene where the midwife is hunted down by these. They're called death dogs or hounds of some sort.
Now are those puppets from Lucasfilm? Not Lucasfilm, but the Muppet guy.
No, these are actually Dobermans with costuming over the top of them.
Oh shit! So here's your Moses moment where she puts her on the floating little thing.
Yeah.
Conveniently made little raft.
Yeah, convenient.
I was going to say we're a few minutes in, and now you've already got massive distinctions between Dragon Slayer, Krull, and Conan, and how they've presented this. They give the impression of delayed time in the similar fashion that Conan does, but there's not the sweeping, glorious tone that is overlapping it as you're watching it. It's just kind of soft music as they go through the intro, and it's more of like an extended prologue than really part of the story.
Who did the soundtrack on this? Oh, James Horner.
So James Horner did the soundtrack. What I'll say about that is James Horner. Compare this with it. Just seen executive producer George Lucas. Now we know that Lucas wrote and produced this, but he gave the direction over to
Opie Cunningham.
it says yes. But yeah, James Horner wrote the soundtrack. Now I'm not sure what was happening with James Horner on this particular film, but two of the main themes are lifted literally, and he admits it, from well-known classical works. So you can, if you have the time and you want to listen to it, listen to the main theme and then Google Schumann Symphony 3, and they're almost identical pieces of music. So I don't know, maybe he had a lot of work going on. So here the child, the main character in the film,
children.
Yeah, little Alora Dannon is rested at the riverbank, found by two of these Elwyn children. And here he is, Warwick.
Listen, Daikini, you're supposed to call them Pecs, all right?
Daikini are the humans.
Yeah, and you're a Daikini, you call them Pecs.
That's right. So there's a lot of sort of like racialism in this world that certainly looked down on.
Weird, huh?
Yeah. Now, here's Warwick finding the baby. Couple of quick facts about Warwick.
He's got a sweet '80s mullet right there. He's got the Kenny G going on.
Yeah. Well, I think in some ways, you know, because of his connections with Lucas, that's why Warwick got this role. In fact, Lucas asked him to do this like 3 or 4 years before, when they were filming Return of the Jedi. So, you know, Warwick played the part of Wicket in Return of the Jedi,
right.
And Lucas thought, wow, I found the exact person I need to do this film, because Lucas had this idea for like 20 years before it actually came out. And
that's cute. He's plowing his field with a piggy.
yeah. Now you might notice as well, this guy coming up here
on the right,
yeah, who was like the town sheriff, in some ways. Not Billy Barty. Here we go. This actor here was one of the actors who was in Time Bandits.
Oh yeah, he was.
Yeah. Now you might notice a couple of other actors in the background later on who were also in Time Bandits, but don't have anything to say. They don't have any speaking parts. They're just there in the background.
The way he moves is creepy. I'm sorry if that's not nice, but that's creepy.
Yeah, well, Warwick Davis has actually got a very specific form of dwarfism, which is very rare. And one of the effects of it is that his hips are slightly dislocated. So
poor little guy.
That's why he walks like that. So this is the actress Julie Peters, who plays his wife. Julie Peters, fantastic actress. And I think I was talking to Hooks previously about this, how, you know, there's actors who are, you know, born with dwarfism who wouldn't get the roles they would normally get if they were, you know, hadn't been born with dwarfism. And one of the interesting things is, after this movie came out, Warwick used some of the money to set up an acting agency specifically to help people into acting who had dwarfism.
Oh, that's nice.
So to give them a chance in acting. But I just love the performance of Julie Peters here. She's so good at what she does.
Yeah, she is. I like her. He's kind of hamming it up, but she's pretty good.
Yeah.
The kids are funny too, with the looks on their faces.
This whole sequence with Willow and his family and the baby and the farm and the interaction, he's not an alpha person. He's getting bullied by other people in the town. He's a simple man. I mean, they're doing a very basic frame out that he is kind of the story everyman. There is nothing unique, nothing special. He is just this is his ordinary world, and they're establishing it very clearly and very directly that this is this ordinary world, and then we're going to have an event, and then we're going to move into the land of the extraordinary journey.
Yes.
So it's very linear. It's very progressive. It is done very well. The film is produced very well. The scenes are filmed very well. As you're looking out in the village,
Wales,
the framing is excellent.
Yeah. As far as absolutely, the framing's perfect in this scene here as well. As you're looking out on the scenery, if you want another location, inside scenes, Elstree, England. That was the go-to really for Lucas, because he'd worked with him on Star Wars, and Wales. So again, Wales, like you had in Dragon Slayer. But also later on, when you see the sort of really amazing, like, mountainous scenery, that's New Zealand, which is interesting because in some ways this is like Lucas's version of the Shire, Lucas's version of Hobbits. And what happened later on, many years later, we had the filming of Lord of the Rings in New Zealand. So this is sort of preempting what was going to happen later on with other fantasy movies as well.
Yeah.
So too, as you're watching this, if you kind of see story elements that really seem to be like almost directly taken from Star Wars, be how a character is portrayed, how a character seems to be being built, or even like general themes. This is written by Lucas.
Yep.
And those are very obvious if you start keeping that in mind.
Yeah.
You're not shrouded very well. Right down to some of the props and costuming of some of the characters kind of have obvious Star Wars thematic throwbacks.
Yeah, so this is a foreshadowing event here, without saying too much.
Yep.
So there's a guy on the left there who was in Time Bandits, just in the red and pink top. Now, there's in the crowd as well as a mix of just like kids made to look like adults and things like that. Guy on the right,
the largest casting of little people ever.
Yeah, it was. And the sort of head honcho of the village is Billy Barty as the High Aldwin. Now, Billy Barty, well-known diminutive actor in America. I remember him from that movie with Goldie Hawn, where it was a very strange film, but he was in really loads, a very prolific actor, and a hard-working man. Really, he was just
Yeah, I've seen him in a bunch of movies too.
Yeah,
I couldn't tell you which ones, but I've seen him many, many times.
Yeah, that was it. I think it was Foul Play. That was it. 1978 Foul Play with Goldie Hawn, Chevy Chase. He played the dwarf. Surprise, surprise! In that film.
Is that Kyle Ritter on the screen?
Yeah, it's Kyle Ritter's dwarf avatar. But I mean, I think Hooks is right. This is the greatest assembling of actors who, a lot of them are really good actors who might not normally get the chance to act. But I mean, I think that's changed now with people like Peter Dinklage. The whole bias towards people who have got dwarfism has changed now. So, it's a lot more. There's a lot more opportunity now.
Yeah, he kind of opened up a lot of doors with that.
Yeah.
Oh, here we go. Here comes the action.
Yes.
So this is they do a really good job of doing some early foreshadowing here for the rest of the story. So we've spent some time, we've established that we've had an embarrassing moment for the hero, and we've established that he's an everyman. And now we're going to do a little foreshadowing. His family is threatened, so he's actually acting a little bit the hero. You're getting a sense that maybe there is more to him than the everyman in this sequence.
Exactly.
He doesn't directly do anything, but you can see it in his face and how he's reacting to look and to protect. That he has those characteristics. They're very buried.
They're latent. Yeah,
right.
Yeah. So the Nockmaar hound is the other word for these things. And this is, like you said, the Dobermans with it wearing a suit with a sort of rat's tail.
God damn it, leather armor again.
Yeah.
I like their choice of spears, though. That's a good choice.
Yeah,
That's what you
yeah.
want when you're up against something like that. You want as much distance between you and the target as possible.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, this is the kind of thing that would have. So these are the main guys. These are the main warriors in the village. Now they're pretty good. I mean, for little guys like that to take out something like that.
Those are the kind of little people Cecil would not start a fight with.
Yeah. So like Hook says, we're really sort of establishing that Willow is a very protective person, and the hero is going to come out of him by necessity.
Right, yeah.
So he's concerned that...
The reluctant hero.
Yeah, so he's concerned that... This is beautiful, this scene. Just the way she says that. That was just really well done.
Yeah.
So this is like we're into the film far enough now to realize that the baby has to be moved to a safe position. What's going to happen? So here's the town.
A scene we just saw almost reminded me of like in when you read Lord of the Rings, when the ring wraiths are coming through the Shire and stuff.
Yeah, that's right. I noticed that as well. And there's a couple of other scenes later in the movie which are pretty much similar to that as well.
And this kind of like the Council of Elrond right here, where they decide what to do with this thing that's bringing Mordor down on them or whatever.
Exactly. So it's like a council meeting to decide what we're going to do.
There's a bit of humor there, though. That was good.
So here's Billy Barty as the High Alderman. And they have to decide what's going to happen next. There's a guy from Time Bandits on the right there.
See, this is showing him as being a generally good guy right here.
Yeah. So you have the contrast between Willow and Mark Northover, the guy talking now, who's playing Burglecut, who's like the town mayor. So there's two different rulers. There's the sort of town mayor, and then there's like the sort of spiritual leader, played by Billy Barty, the High Alderman.
Right. This is also setting up the call to adventure for the hero. You've established your everyman hero as having a little bit of a tendency, and now you are going to thrust him out into the unknown. He's going to leave the safety of the village out into the unknown to find his adventure. Again, very linear storyline.
Yeah. So, again, here we see that Willow as a character is, his central drive to he can't deny the fact that he wants to protect, so he's drawn to do what needs to be done.
Right, and that is worth mentioning, that there is no hesitation here for him, the hero, to answer the call. He doesn't hesitate. There's no doubt. It's just he immediately does it, which again goes back to that everyman good nature that they established very early on within the village shot. He's just a good person. He's a good person. So, of course, he will accept this, and he's going to take this journey. Now, there's an interesting moment coming up where he hits his first threshold, and you see the first failure of character, which is a good – it's good. It's well written in how they handle it. But you see – and how that is used kind of instead of a loss, in a sense. They use a character flaw instead of a loss. So it's not quite linear. I'm going to compliment it, even though I really think this is really basic storytelling.
I like that bit as well, where the town mayor says, he's not going. He's going to protect the village. Oh, did I mention you're going? All right. So he changes his mind and sort of ropes the other guy in as well quickly.
Well, I think also it's pretty evident that the High Ulfwin, or whatever the hell his name is, the High Ulfgood, whatever, is this? He's pretty much just a scam artist. Because I mean, the only thing magical he even does is have those little acorns, right? Everything else is like, his test thing was kind of arbitrary, based upon your instincts, going with your instincts and not just trying to find the right answer. And the whole bone sequence, it was just bullshit. So.
Well, you're about to see him do a bit of magic here. So I love what he's doing. It's just a made-up sign language there.
Right, and the High Eldwin does act as a little bit of a mentor at this stage. It's not a mentor in the sense of the hero's journey, but he's just offering more of a sagely advice.
Yeah, this is a
build up.
This is a really touching family scene here. So it's really believable. So his relationship with his children and his wife, and great performance, like I say, by the actress who plays his wife, Julie Peters. I just think, I don't know why they asked Warwick to do this sort of pseudo-American accent, because it doesn't really work.
No.
Should have just said, just do your normal accent. So this is the scene with Willow and his wife before he sets off.
Yeah.
And similar to Dragon Slayer, the costuming and the set design is just beautiful. It really fits with the air they're trying to do.
Yeah, I mean, it was denied a lot of awards at the time because there was a lot of competition when it came out. But one of the things it did win on, they say she gives him her hair there, just as a good look. It's a touching moment. I mean, for all things said and done, there is a lot of emotion in this film. What it lacks in certain areas. I know, and it's a linear journey, but it does have the sentimentality that Lucas often puts in his films.
Yeah, it's not a deep film, but it's not a bad film.
Yeah. There you go. What about that, Karl? Turn a rock into a bird.
That's true. I mean, well.
It's going in the wrong direction, though.
I don't know. I kind of see him as more like a Wizard of Oz kind of character than anything else. Full in the rubes.
This is a nice scene coming up here, and you look at the scenery in the background. Now, that landscape with sort of Sugarloaf Hills was taken from China. They wanted to film on location in China, but the Chinese government just totally refused at the time. So what they did was Lucas sent out a bunch of photographers, and they just took loads of photographs, brought them back, and they just green screened that in the same way that they did all the green screening for Star Wars. So same kind of special effects there. But I just think it's a nice, retelling of the Shire, a different landscape.
Yeah, it's really nice.
I think that's any father's had that happen.
And that's foreshadowing too.
Yeah. Here is Bavmorda's castle.
I'm not looking at that.
Oh yeah.
This is General Kael. And again, we're very heavily following the Death's Head motif. Only again, because this is Willow, we do it literally and use a skull.
Yeah. Darth Vader. I mean, General Kael. Interesting. Kael, the character for Kael, and the other is a monster in this, where Lucas deliberately named them after film critics. Because he had a hate relationship with critics. Critics have never liked Lucas, so he decided one of his major critics he would name a villain after her. Pat Roach is playing the part. you might recognize him. He played the boxing giant that Indiana Jones had to fight in, the sort of
the German aircraft mechanic.
Yeah, in Raiders of the Lost Ark, the bit where the plane, this sort of like plane, experimental plane is about to take off, and he's fighting him. A boxing match. Yeah, he walks into the blades. But Pat Roach was in quite a lot of stuff. He was a champion wrestler. In America, you won't know this, but there was a TV series in the 80s called Auf Wiedersehen Pet, which was about northeastern builders going to work in Germany. That's what he was famous for over here in Britain. And so, you know how you said, Karl, earlier about the riders, the dark riders.
Yeah.
This is like
they're hiding in the bushes from these guys on horseback.
Exactly. Yeah.
She's kind of got a Mongol look to her with her armor, obviously, and the composite bow and all that.
Yes. So again, you're going to see a lot of Mongol influences. Now, I don't know what it is. I mean, every time people want to present that kind of like sort of harsh military thing going empire, they always go back to this race memory of the Mongols.
So again, we got a little travel montage here, and again, different than Crawl, we don't show them 20 minutes walking across the hill. We show very short segments of travel, and then you indicate with various times of day and lighting in a different location the same small amounts of travel. We're going to take that long journey and montage it up so that you feel like we're traveling distance over a short period of time. So again, good filmmaking versus the bad filmmaking of Crawl.
Yeah. So in my opinion, that means that, they certainly learned their lessons with films like Crow. But, Lucas had that experience as well. Who is it we're about to meet here?
It's our boy, Doc Holliday. That's one we ought to look at one of these days, too, just as a side note.
Yeah.
So I want to, as we're going up and we're going to be introduced to the Mardigan character, one of the reasons I really dislike this film, and Karl and I talked about this quite a bit in the pre-show, was the Mad Mardigan character, I feel, is such a waste. And when you have a character like we're going to meet here coming up soon of Arik, and when you have the small Willow, who's the everyman, who's just good, he's a good person, but he has no physical prowess. And really, he's not even that like cunning. He's just an every guy. And to have the Mad Mardigan character who's so flawed next to him is almost too severe. I think you should have had like a strong leader, just somebody that just resonates hero. And that's more of the Eric character. So I think that's a little bit of a lost opportunity with how they play Mardigan in this.
Yeah, it's a Mad Mardigan character. Yeah, you were mentioning about there was a couple of scenes that would have explained more about him, which were excluded in the final cut.
I think they would have added a lot to the film as well. Those scenes.
Yeah, and just so the audience is aware, you can go out and read about them, but essentially the first few drafts of this had more of it did the backstory between the relationship of Mardigan and Eric, why Mardigan is in a cage at the crossroads, and then also kind of what happened they were best of friends, and what happened to rip that friendship apart, and why is Mardigan in a cage, and then also why does Arik have just such disgust for him.
Yeah.
And it adds just also, it would have added a lot more, not just to the Mardigan character, but to the whole dichotomy of how that character is going to evolve through this story. And without it, it's just Mardigan, he's developed, but it's like he's missing a piece of his backstory that they never tell you, they suggest it, and you're just not able to fully understand what happened. And because of that, it feels empty to me.
Well, I mean, from a career perspective as well, Val Kilmer got his break in 1984 with Top Secret, where he played Nick Rivers. It's just a brilliant.
Got to straighten the rug.
Yeah. And a year after that, you got Real Genius. I'm not familiar with it. I haven't seen that particular movie.
Fill a house with popcorn.
And then, of course, the year after that, in '86, he got Top Gun, where he played Lieutenant Tom Iceman Kazansky. And 2 years after that, he got this role, Willow, as Mad Mardigan. And a couple of years after that, he was Jim Morrison in the film version of The Doors.
Which ties us back to Oliver Stone, who wrote our last movie.
Yes. It's a small world in Hollywood.
Have you given thought to the fact that both Madmartigan and Willow kind of go through the hero's journey together?
And that's really kind of where I was headed. Is so we haven't really reached the kind of the threshold crossing for either of these characters yet. That's about to happen, and we're 20 minutes into the film, and nothing has happened yet. It's been minor world building and exposition, and your hero's journey is going to start here in like the next 5 minutes.
Yeah.
And they didn't do a terrible job, but again, it's just one of the reasons why I don't like this movie. It's just they spend a lot of time, but if you were to pause it right here and really ask, like, what do you know about this world? Like, you know enough to get you to this point in the story where things make sense, but you don't have any depth. It's very linear. They only tell you what you need to know. And that's starting to change here coming up. Now we're going to start seeing that this world is a thriving world with a lot going on. But it takes this long to get to that point, and it's just wasted opportunities.
So this is where things start to hot up a bit. We start to find out what's going on. There's a war. So as well as the fact that the Queen's trying to hunt down this child, which is also in the middle of a conquest of the whole land as well, militarily speaking.
Can you stop it? I'm sorry.
And so that sort of puts everything in a bigger context as well. So I'm pretty sure that this scene here, looking at the landscape and everything, that's probably Wales somewhere. But then there's mountains in the background, so that's either green screen or they're in New Zealand. So this is starting to find out a bit more about Madmartigan here. Now,
he must have only been in there like a day or so, because you wouldn't last long.
He's only been in there a few days max. If he hasn't had any water, he still looks pretty healthy. So yeah, we're about to see the army of what we were talking about before, the hero character of Eric.
I like it. I dig it.
Coming across the valley there. Now, the guy who plays Eric, Gavin.
A lot of Corinthian helms in there. Very.
I
thought it had a very Theban feel.
So style did make a comeback in the 1400s.
The standards are very Japanese, I thought. So the helmets and
stuff
were
very, very, very Viking or very Japanese. Kind of that rectangular on a cross.
So it's a mixture of different styles. So you're about to see Gavin O'Hurley. I'm hoping I pronounced that correct.
Fine Irishman.
Yeah. Dublin. Now he was in a well-known comedy show, which.
Look at that beard. It's almost like the beard of Caesar. Almost as glorious. Yeah. Oh my God! Wouldn't that be a great meme? Put Caesar's face on that armored body on the horse.
Yeah. So this is the debate between the two, where you get to find out a bit more about Madmartigan and why he's in the cage.
So they're marching off against Bavmorda.
Yep.
So you get the sense that something is stirred, because Bavmorda's been in power for a long time, and something is changing in the world. Like that's
I'm sorry to interrupt you.
Yeah, go ahead.
About that armor and stuff they're wearing, and the shields and everything, they have a very late Roman period look to them, kind of mixed with like a Peloponnesian era Greek kind of motif.
Yeah.
It's actually I actually dig it. It actually works really well, and it's really cool. Like how Eric had the scale armor and stuff. That I dig it.
Well, in contrast to, they were very brightly armored. And Bavmorda's men are dressed in black. So again, it's that very white hat, black hat presentation. You can evident this is the army of good, the army of the light, versus Bavmorda's forces, which are evident, obviously evil.
Yeah, because they're black. Yeah, so Gavin O'Herlihy, Eich Thorbear is the character, who was the general of the destroyed kingdom of Galadoom. And Madmartigan used to be in that army, but Hux, you were saying the sort of pre-story was at one point that he had deserted, which is why.
Yeah, there was a battle and he deserted because for whatever reason, and that was kind of where Arik had enough of putting up with his friends' shenanigans, and so he was then punished and put in the cage.
Yeah, I mean, I know that actor from one of the Sharp stories, Sharp's Eagle, which is, I grew up watching the Sharp TV series, which I think is available in America. I'm sure people have seen it.
I've got the box set.
Yeah.
He's very spry for a man who's been in that cage for.
Yeah. Trying to think what else he was in.
He's a security guard in Superman 3.
Oh yeah.
He's in a Bond film.
Never Say Never Again. Yeah.
And there's something else he's in. Can't get it right off the top of my head, but
Prince Valiant, he plays King Thane. So yeah, he had some roles. So they're
going to give an infant child into the hands of Madmartigan, who just got out of a crow's cage, basically.
That sounds like a good idea. Let's just give this infant to this miscreant.
But he misses home and family.
Yep.
Understandable.
Yep. So we're at about 37, 38 minutes into the movie. If anybody wants a timestamp, I'm at 37:15 now. This is definitely New Zealand. You can see that scenery in the background. They're mountains. Even Wales, the mountains aren't that high. And so here the two characters are just, right, that's it. Our job's done. We can go home now.
Yep.
So this is really the start of the film.
Right.
So the other guy on the screen there with Warwick is a man called David J. Steinberg, who plays Migosh. And other films he's been in, not a great deal. Nothing really of any import from this one, really. Anything to say about the CGI on the brownies, Hux? Hux has muted himself.
Well, it's
sorry, gentlemen.
It's better than Karl a few years earlier, for sure. Yeah. This part here, where there's a bunch of them running around on the logs, that's a little bit not good.
Right, and this is all your standard blue screen work, and some of it's done better than others, but you'll notice there's a little bit of jerkiness to it. So yeah, still bad blue screen.
Yeah. Now here's your Gulliver's Travels moment coming up.
I was bring that up.
Now you're about to meet the princess, or the, I should say, the good spirit of the forest.
Right, and also I missed it. I was sorry to step away for a minute, but when he gives the child when he gives the child over to Madmartigan. Oh, excuse me.
That's okay.
When he gives the child over to Madmartigan, that's the refusal of adventure, and then they're going to head home. So he does refuse the adventure, and now he's going to come back. And as you watch, obviously he's going to go back in, and we're going to do the adventure after all. He does eventually accept the call. So we've accepted the call again, and now we're going to move through. And then the next step is going to be the threshold.
Yeah. So this is Shalindria, the fairy queen. You're about to see some very attractive ladies, but they're very small, Karl. I don't think there's any. It's like an RBCC taunt, this whole thing. So this is played by an actress called Maria Holvo. Now, quite attractive woman, but I can't think I've seen her in anything else.
Yeah, no, I don't know.
And Shalindra, she also is now taking another representation, another piece of that mentor, and she's doing a little bit of mentoring the hero here.
So there's the naked fairy ladies. So in my opinion, this is sort of another manifestation of the Galadriel character.
Very much.
Almost like a Force Ghost Obi-Wan too.
Yeah. So she gifts Willow her wand, which is a bit like the ring, I suppose. So this now becomes a quest with an item as well, of power, which now gives him the quest. This is where the real quest begins. He now has to find. There we go. So she's got to bring down the evil queen and find Finn Razel, who was the good sorceress, played by Patricia Hayes. Sorry. And so this is now, we're about 42 minutes into the movie, and now the real quest has been given. It's a pretty impressive scene. I think the special effects work quite well in that scene.
Yeah, it didn't look bad. We also got to keep in mind the time this is before CGI really got refined with Jurassic Park and all that. Yeah,
I mean, I don't know how much. I think Hooks is going to talk a little about the morphing technology in the movie, but one of the reasons why Lucas delayed this film was that he had to wait until the visual effects caught up with his vision for the movie. And Industrial Light and Magic, well, one of the things that this movie did actually win an award for was a certain type of special effect that they used in the movie, which became groundbreaking. But I'll wait until that scene comes up and we'll talk a bit about that later.
Yeah, they also some of the technology that was used on the dragon from Dragon Slayer was further honed in this. And if you go back and watch that, if you remember, we kind of talked a little bit about how it seems it's fluid, but it still looks a little jerky. When you get to that section in this film, you'll see that it's now to the point where it's very smooth. But now you've got a different set of problems that's going along. So it's as they slowly hone it, you'll see, oh, we fixed this, but it caused this.
So here we see two brownie warriors. These are a duo, Rule and Frangine, played by Kevin Pollak, who you've probably seen in other things. Rick Overton. Now, that's the comic relief, obviously, for the movie. And I think Lucas is using the tried and tested method of the two fools, which was R2-D2 and C-3PO in Star Wars, which goes back to, the film that, yeah, exactly. So this goes all the way back to Hidden Fortress, which is where Lucas got the idea for one of the ideas for Star Wars from, the idea of the two fools, who perform and I think they do a good job of carrying the film forward, with their sort of comedic performance through the different scenes. So here's the equivalent of Frodo getting to the prancing pony. Right. This is Willow getting to this inn. We don't find out the name of the inn, but similar sort of thing. So
it's a round place, isn't it?
Yeah, you can see they're having like a piggyback joust there. Always good to have piggyback joust. I'm usually about 8 pints in when I do that.
We got some shady looking characters hanging around there.
Yep. And some more sort of racial hatred there towards Pex.
Oh, she's throwing lettuce at him.
Yep. So this is this scene's really set up to establish where the heroes come back together again, and they're using they're using the two characters, the two fools, to sort of drive the story forward here.
Right. Yeah.
Here's
Also establishing the fact that they have a love potion. Which
I don't know why they have it. There's no explanation about why they got love potion.
Why they just have it? No explanation.
Yeah, and then it becomes significant later on. This is So the guy there, Kevin Pollak, who's playing Rule, who looks like a mouse, with he's got like his like mouse headdress there. He's famous for TV work, isn't he, over there in America?
I mostly remember him from The Usual Suspects. Yeah.
So he's done a lot of comedy stuff, and LA Story was in A Few Good Men.
Each other with flails.
Yeah.
Yeah, it looks like a rough place.
It is. So, and here, who do we have? But Val Kilmer. And, there you go. A bit of cross-dressing there.
Well, so she's got time to dress him up as her sister, but she doesn't have time to sneak him out the side door, huh?
No, exactly. This is Lug, the husband.
Lug.
So this all sort of leads up to, Bavmorda's troops coming into the inn to look for the child, and Val Kilmer's character, Mad Mordigan, ends up bumping into Sorsha, played by Joanne Whalley. And as you do, you meet the girl of your dreams while you're dressed as a woman.
Right.
So we've gone for ultimate incel here, I think, with this scene.
Here we go. There we are. I dig the armor. I dig it.
Yeah, it's some interesting. I mean, there's loads of different influences on the armor here, Karl. I mean, would you agree? I mean, there's.
All right, the first guy, the guy standing next to her, or he's wearing like a Eastern style helmet with a Western style brigandine with metal plates underneath leather or cloth. And these other guys, they look like they're wearing some sort of a composite of metal and leather put together. Not so much digging the leather, but the rest of it's pretty cool.
Yeah,
wearing some mail. That's good.
There we go.
I'll be wearing mail.
We see Joanne Whalley there. Now, so they're already sort of interested in each other at this point. And there's a sort of chaotic element again. Lug starts a bar fight, and in the confusion,
beating the shit out of that guy.
In the confusion, Mad Mordigan gets away, and here we have like sort of the first swashbuckling moment. Oh, the beer's gone.
that was a crime.
Yeah,
capital offense.
Yeah, actually, I'm just going to take a quick sip. I got myself a bottle of Leffe here, so
It looks like Lug made it out okay.
Yep. So now we've got we got this great little action piece that's going to come up here. So we've both the heroes are now on the journey together. They've loosely formed an alliance here as they leave the tavern. So again, it's very linear, very structured, very safe. We're not going to take too many risks, but this is actually a really good action sequence here. And like the shots with the brownies there, like in the wagon with the stuff rolling around, that's not blue screen. They just built big sets.
Yeah,
and then had them react to it. So you actually get some nice ratioing and size. Yeah. It looks good.
Yeah, I mean this sort of like chase sequence you can imagine in Indiana Jones quite easily. Same sort of stuff.
Yeah, it's par for the course.
Yep, very very pulp, kind of moving action.
Yeah.
You can replace Mad Mardigan with Doc Savage, replace the wagon with a truck or Indiana Jones, and it all still works.
Yeah, Saturday matinee. So this sequence is probably the first real action sequence in the whole movie.
That guy's actually wearing some lamellar armor, which is basically plates sewn together and then attached to a lining. That's actually kind of cool because that is an Eastern style armor to go with his Eastern style helmet.
So is the armor actually sort of authentic?
That guy's was the steel lamellar he had on. Yeah. It's kind of like how the Japanese make their armor, where they.
Yeah, I was going to say there's a couple of the helmets back there looked really sort of like samurai Japanese helmets. So there's one of the wheels come off the chariot. Oh, sorry, chariot. Cart. It might as well be cart. I don't know how it's still going ahead, but it's a. And Indiana Willow there trying to get to the reins of the horse. Who did the soundtrack for? It was John Williams, wasn't it? Who did the soundtrack for the Indiana Jones movies?
Yes.
Yeah. I think Horner's trying to replicate that at this stage.
Ooh.
Bang.
There you go, Willow.
Right in the tube edge.
There's your obligatory, Saturday matinee pulp style action joke moment.
Yep.
Well, now it's a chariot. Are you happy, Pete?
Yeah, it is now. So there's the two brownies just smashing through the rope there to get the barrel.
Right, and if you watch, there's scenes there where you can tell it's on a big prop set where they built just oversized props, and then they when the barrel rolls off, it's an obvious blue screen shot where they're cutting it. So it's really well. Again, nothing is poorly done in the film. It's just very straightforward and linear.
I like the way one of the soldiers there also threw is that a shuriken? Karl? Because he'll keep us right. Now, that thing he's flailing around there is a flail. It's not a morning star.
No,
it's a flail.
Yeah. During the Middle Ages, what they do a lot was they take agricultural tools and turn them into weapons because you're basically conscripting all your peasants to go to war. So they go to war with things they knew, like axes and flails. Yeah. And eventually they made them better for fighting with.
Yep.
And hence you have this.
That's a good point, really. They were the sort of the levies who were just levied into the army and pushed forward.
You want to get deep. That sort of flail he was using, that one-handed sort of flail, you will not find one in any museum because they have not found one. There's the only evidence that those even existed are basically Victorian treatises and artist renditions of the Middle Ages.
Right.
So everything would have been a two-handed. It would be a pole arm.
It would have been something for a footman to use. Yeah, it would have been a long pole with like a wooden, stick on the end for winnowing your grain.
Yeah.
And then eventually they added like nails and spikes and shit to that. It would feel very good.
So there's the authenticity. There's the rest of the. Some movies wouldn't even bother mentioning, they would just forget that we're being pursued by other people. But here we have the continuity of the other troops coming through, which is a good little touch. We're not missing out on the continuity there. So again, we've reached the point where, you know, as Huck said, this is Mad Morrigan. He's a reluctant hero. And a bit like Willow, in my opinion, I think what convinces him is the child. You know, it's that.
Yeah, the journey for both of them is it's mirrored, and there's not really a whole lot of like compare and contrast or black and white, or even in you know, Conan, we had a lot of there was a little bit of duality that was being referenced between characters, and then you had the triumphant, the triple, and the contrast between their gods and who they looked up to and what their outlook on life was. Here, it's just, you know, Willow is the everyman and Mad Mardigan is the selfish rogue, and it's tropey. It's just the standard trope playing off. It's Lucas. Lucas wrote it.
Right.
Yeah. So
this is where
he's going with the established kind of ideas.
So she kind of brings out their paternal instincts in the both of them to do the right thing and keep her safe and bring her to her destiny.
One of the things, I know we're watching a film where, you know, you suspend disbelief whenever you watch anything about sorcery and things like that. But one of the things that, you know, isn't really drawn upon is the fact that how do these brownies keep up at all? There's one sequence later on where, you know, after they find the sorceress, that they have to catch up with the rest of the party. And there must be miles to cover, and they're like six inches tall. These you know, these two. It would take them years.
Well, we did see that one scene where they're riding in Willow's backpack.
Yeah.
But I kind of like the cathedral-like look of her throne room over here.
So here we have Pat Roach coming back to report to the Queen again. Now, Pat Roach didn't look like that. He's got makeup on to make him look virtually like a Neanderthal. I don't know what they're trying to say by doing that, but...
Well, I think it's just to make him look
more menacing.
More of the menace, more the evil commander. And really, it's a mistake in these sequences where he removes his helmet. If you really wanted to keep up the impression of terror, you leave the helmet on, and so you leave it. Is that his real face, or is that a mask? The whole time, that would have really instilled more depth to the character. Ironically, by not showing the face.
We want to have the catharsis of seeing his face. They could have done it instead.
Does that also go for emo Vader as well?
Yes.
I think even if he's left his mask on, he'd still be emo Vader.
The mask actually added a lot to the Kylo Ren character, and is in a similar vein, less so with Kael, because he's not the primary antagonist. But yeah, I mean, if you really want to build terror in a character, something like that, where it's just an imposing visage, don't ever break it by showing that they're a person underneath it. Don't even show like the flesh of a wrist or a finger or anything. Always have them wear gloves. Keep their humanity at a minimum. Yeah.
So,
but then again, John Milius did a hell of a job of doing that with Thulsa Doom too. He took his helmet off, and you knew just looking into his eyes, those eyes that should not be that blue, and just the intensity of James Earl Jones, that there's nothing human about him. Well, there is, but I mean, he does not have the mindset of a normal human being. So I mean, you can, but maybe that's also dependent upon the strength of your actor as well.
Well, in that instance too, the Thulsa Doom character in Conan was meant to be inhuman. I'm saying if you have a truly human character that is just a man and you want to give them some imposing mythos to their character, never show the humanity. That's a mistake. Like later on in the movie, when Kael is defeated, you could easily have somebody like punch him in the face with the hilt of their blade and break the skull. And then you see for the first time underneath that there's a man's face underneath there.
Yeah, which is what happens.
And now he can be defeated, and then later, and then you kill the bad guy.
Yeah,
but until that point, he is the demon.
Yeah.
And the moment he takes the mask off, he's not a demon.
It's a bit like Predator when Schwarzenegger says, "If it bleeds, we can kill it." So same sort of stuff. So here the characters are. We're almost at the midpoint of the film, and this is the point where finally, halfway through the film, we meet the mentor character of Finn Rizal, played by Patricia Hayes. Patricia Hayes came from a music hall background. She was in a lot of. I don't know whether you're familiar with Hancock's Half Hour. That's not the
not
Hancock you're thinking of, but it's sorry, not Hitchcock, but it's a guy called Tony Hancock who was a comedian and satirist, well known in Britain. But so she was involved in a lot of comedy stuff, and so really good actress. But we're about to meet her now. A little bit about Warwick as well, just during this scene here while we're waiting to meet Finn Rizal. Warwick got involved with Lucas through his grandmother. His grandmother heard a radio advert asking for small people to audition for Return of the Jedi. And he got the role. He got the role of playing an Ewok extra, but it was because Kenny Baker, who played R2-D2, fell ill during the filming. That because Kenny Baker was going to play the part of Wicket as well, but he fell ill, so Warwick had to step in and do it. And Lucas was really impressed with the result in the end.
With him tilting his head to the left and then tilting his head to the right.
Yeah, no. Apparently that was a masterpiece. Apparently he learned how to do that by imitating a dog. So he's just copying the sort of actions of his dog. But yeah, I mean, it was the beginning of his career. Everything fell right for him.
So here we're at the island, and we're going to go out and find the sorceress. And this is the beginning. This is actually kind of drawn out. In most stories, this is like spread out, maybe across like a little bit more conflict. In Willow, like this is probably the next 20 minutes, and it's the innermost cave. It's the hero's journey, and he's at the point when he's got to do something. He has to now actualize something. So he needs to find the sorceress, and he needs to get her to where she needs to be. And so this is the start of that arc of his journey. And again, he's showing a little bit of self-doubt. We still got that self-doubt, which is again showing the flaw of the character. He's unsure of himself, but we get this. He does accomplish it. He gets, he's starting to accomplish things, and so he's starting to slowly build up. And now we've also met the mentor, and you'll start seeing his faith in himself grow.
And we're seeing a bit of the advancement in special effects here. Where they're able to. Sorry, Carl?
I said that actually looks really good when he's standing there talking to her.
Yeah.
See both of them on screen. You can hardly tell.
Yeah, exactly. Now, these scenes with Finn Rizal as an animal where they're moving the mouth is something they couldn't do until this film came along. They didn't have that technology. Do you think about the Ewoks in Return of the Jedi? You watch it, you believe it, but that just masks the mouths don't move, things like that. So even today when I watch Return of the Jedi, I just ignore that fact. But so just little touches that enabled more for Lucas.
Oh yeah. Here we go. Here we see the.
So they've returned to the shore. Madmartigan's missing, and lo and behold, he turns up captured. Again in the hands of the enemy, and also Sorsha, Bavmorda's daughter. So they basically end up losing everything at this point. The baby's been taken. Finn Rizal's picked up and put in a sack. They take them all captive, and so no sooner has Willow met his mentor character than they're all taken into captivity.
They got to have a little flirtation here.
Yeah. And this is there we go. So
Kick 'em
is
right
that true? If a woman really likes you, she'll kick you in the face. I've never found that to happen myself, but
I have not discovered that to be true.
no, it's not normal. So there's the two brownies there. This is a funny bit coming up here because sort of discussing whether or not to try and keep up with them.
Yep.
And even if we find them, they'll just torture us. Are you suggesting we go home? Nah, not at all. Let's go. It's more fun.
Yep.
Okay, so at this point, we're sort of learning a little bit more about.
It's handy of them to have that cage there for the for what's her name?
Yeah. So what?
So
this is where,
if we could contrast this a little bit with, so we had in Conan. Think about where we were at an hour into the film. I mean, the real action was just starting, right? Mm-hmm. With Dragon Slayer, they were still trying to figure. I don't even think you'd seen the dragon at 1 hour in. You know, at Crawl they were walking, shocking at 1 hour because that's all they did in Crawl. They just walked.
Yeah, this was a swamp scene in Crawl.
Yeah, so again, this is a positive for Willow. You've got a very linear story, but the world building up to this point, you've established that there's an evil queen and a good empire, and there's a war that's erupting. There's this prophecy. You've got connections between people that fight for the army of light, so to speak, and Mad Mardigan. You've got the dynamic between Mardigan and Willow. You've got the dynamic between Mardigan and Sorsha that's already been developed. Lucas does that really well. Even though I complain about how straight the story is and it really doesn't have any jigs or weaves, he does a really good job of building those little tiny character arcs into things. And it's just like weaving a thread through it. So just something to think about as we continue to move on. Watch for those little things that you see that's different in Willow than it's different in the other films we watched.
And here we've reached the sort of encampment of the of Bavmorda's troops. And again, we've got the Mongol influences. Their camp is made up of yurts. A yurt being a Mongol tent hut, so it indicates the Mongol influence again. And another thing, going back to what Hux was saying, and also to one side as well, you've now got, because of the introduction of the mentor character of Finn, you've got the relationship between her and Willow. She's trying to teach him and lead him and bring him on in learning what he needs to do. She's trying to encourage him to I suppose stretch out and use the Force, in another way of speaking. So she's the Yoda to his Luke.
It's a good observation.
Yeah, just to go back to Kael, I love the wings on the side of his helmet that give that kind of those curved pieces of metal that just give that, it's almost like a samurai-esque. It just gives you an even more imposing beyond the skull visage. It just adds, it's such a little detail and it adds so much.
Yeah. Right. Hux, anything to say about what we're about to see on screen, special effects wise?
Yeah, so this is the ILM boys doing what they do best and coming up with this morphing that you're going to see. And this is the harbinger for really moving into the 90s. Like when you think of all the movies in the 90s, you think of Jurassic Park and Terminator 2, and this is it. This is where it starts, because this is the first time they're able to implement this in a film.
Yeah.
And it's a new era is going to dawn here.
Yeah. This is when they really cracked it, isn't it? Really.
I mean, you think about this. Terminator 2 is a direct like descendant of this right here.
Yep. No, everything pretty much stems from this. And ILM had been working on this. They wanted to do some morphing, if you remember, in Crawl, and they used cut imaging and fade morphing, which is old technology going back to Harryhausen that just had gotten perfected. But it still wasn't clean. This is really clean. These sequences are really nice. And this is all the graphics department, the CGI graphics department at ILM. And they'd been working on this since Crawl. I mean, it came up before Crawl. And so you're talking 5 years. And they finally were able to do it. And this is all in just a 2D space. It's really, really cool.
Yeah, I mean, this is one of the most... this is one of the things that really impacted me when I first saw this movie. You know, certain scenes in the movie that I still like the you know, the toboggan sequence, which is coming up soon, and there's the battle sequence later on, and then finally towards the end another sequence involving morphing, which I won't talk about right now. We'll wait until that comes up, but yeah, it was really influential, that part of the technology. So here we see
Mad Mardigan got hit with a love potion.
That's it. Yeah, he's been hit with an anti-RBCC potion.
So one other thing too about this, if you notice, we've gone from the riverside and the Daikine village to the plains, to the crossroads, to the forest, and now we're in the mountains and we're in snow. This is one thing that I do like about the movie. It does really good for the places you'll go portion of the hero's journey. It's showing that he's not just traveling, but he's going to different locales, things that are different, that his different surroundings than he's used to. And just for storytelling, that's very important because it gives you a chance to have your hero not just interact with others around him, but also the environment.
I'm sorry, Vince, this film is problematic. We have to... Well, he got hit with a love potion. He did not fall in love with Willow. So
okay. I like the prowling around here. It's very Star Wars-esque, you know, and the music's all very suspenseful. This is, to me, this sequence here where they're prowling around and the comedy in it, you know, would it have been any different if Harrison Ford had played Mad Mardigan?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, Kilmer's good, but Ford plays the cocky rogue so well.
Yeah. Okay, so there's asleep there, Joanne Whalley, with a beautiful head of red hair.
Yeah,
she was an extremely attractive, but she still is attractive now for her age.
One thing I do enjoy about this movie is I do enjoy the relationship that Willow and Mad Mardigan develop, because I think they play off each other so well.
The chemistry is fantastic, and I'll tell you why the chemistry is fantastic, Carl. Do you want to know a bit more?
I would.
Well, during the filming of this movie, they hit it off, and Kilmer married Joanne Whalley in March 1988. So shortly after they'd filmed this, they got married, and they were married for 8 years and had a couple of kids.
Ooh, the dagger. It's a Rondell dagger.
So what you're seeing on screen, that's real. They actually had a relationship off screen.
Yeah, they're cool together. I was talking about Willow and Mad Mardigan.
Even on that, most everybody that's ever worked with Warwick Davis says he's just a joy to work with, and he's a really good guy. So I think you do kind of see that too, is that he's kind of he's the guy that everybody likes.
Yeah,
so everybody likes working with him.
Yep. You get a full nipple view here.
Yeah, I dig the dagger she has. That's a Rondell.
Erect nipple. And here's the snog coming. Oh, interrupted as usual.
Oh, did I miss her? I missed. Oh.
Johnny Five's turned up. Hail, Johnny Five.
Hey, Johnny Five.
So again, there's another lost opportunity as Kael enters the tent with his face mask up. It loses a little bit of the imposing nature of things.
I love this. This is the first sort of swordplay scene from Falcon. It's just, I don't care what anybody says. I love this. I know it's cornball, but I just like it. And a bit of comedy there.
Yeah, so Mad Mardigan. Let's talk about this. That sword he's got, that is a 15th century longsword.
Yeah.
Usable in one or two hands. Notice the point is idealized for thrusting. And cut just as well, though, but I dig it. That's legitimately a good sword.
Yeah, and a bit of romance there. And here's the toboggan scene. This is the scene I remember most from the film.
The toboggan scene that quickly turns into the snowball scene.
Yeah.
This is another kind of like the wagon. We're throwing back to the pulp action.
Yeah. I think ultimately though it's really an action movie, isn't it? Trying to be something different.
I would say, yeah, it's an action set piece movie for sure.
Yeah. I think with a different director, it would have been better. Howard plays it safe, but yeah, would it have been any different with Spielberg?
I think you might have had a little more life to it if it was Spielberg, and that's coming from somebody that's not a big Spielberg fan.
Yeah. There we go. baby's enjoying it.
I suppose if you got to get up a mountain post haste, is the best way to do it.
Yeah. Now, if this is a modern film, this would be the 3D section, wouldn't it? You'd have to put your glasses on for this bit. This is literally the snowball effect happening here.
That's it. I got to imagine that would be hard to survive.
Yeah.
A ball like that.
Yeah.
Kind of stop like this.
There we are. He meant to go through the doorway.
You probably hit that wall about 25
20
miles.
times, yeah. Stunt Warwick was a bit sore by the end of the day.
Here we go. We got a little comedy there with his feet sticking out the bottom of it.
There we go. Now there's a shitload of snow to clear away from the front of the house there, Hooks.
Thanks a lot, Martin. I don't know. I think I could not see Harrison Ford in that role. It's got to be Val Kilmer.
Yeah, I mean, Val Kilmer brings out more the sort of like comedy element to it, doesn't he?
Val Kilmer has kind of a youthful in this movie, at least. He has kind of a youthful fucking arrogance to him that I don't think Harrison Ford just ever really had.
Yeah,
I mean, he's obviously great at what he does because everyone loves Han Solo.
Who we're about to meet here.
Yeah, and I think Ford also has the age and guile of Ford beats the youth and arrogance of Kilmer to a degree, but I think you're right in this role. This is Kilmer's, and here's Arik.
Yep.
After the army's been defeated by Bavmorda and they're hiding out.
I think this is done quite well, this scene. So it's building the suspense up again. It's a standard scene, but
they never checked the cellar.
Yeah. There's a guy here who's that guy there, his helmet and armor. His helmet looks like, I don't know, it looks like a bollard. It's like
all right. After the Norman period, they started developing the Great Helm. One of the things they started doing was taking a standard Norman conical helm and started putting face plates on it. And you'll see helmets like that. I mean, it doesn't necessarily bulge out the tip like that, but you'll see helmets like that with those similar shapes with like the across the nose and brass and all that.
Yeah.
You'll see that sort of a thing.
Yeah.
But it's kind of a transitional style, and they fantasied it up a bit.
Yeah. Johnny Five's just saying Tony Cox, one of the Elwyn actors, was also an Ewok as well in Return of the Jedi. So there's a few people in this movie. It's not just Warwick Davis would have been in Return of the Jedi as well.
I got to imagine a lot of these guys are with that connection with Lucas and all that stuff.
Yeah. So there we go. So they're being captured, but he's obviously taken Sorsha as hostage so they can get away.
And then there's Willow's paternal instinct coming out. With all this chaos going on, she's got to be changed.
Yeah, I do like that armor that Eric's wearing. I'm not sure how authentic, but it's a scale mail, isn't it, Karl?
Well, the Romans had a scale armor. It was called Lorica Squamata. That was fairly. It wasn't. It was probably the third most used. It used by a lot of Roman auxiliaries and a lot of, they fancied it up. Sometimes Roman officers wear it. I really like this look he's got going on. He kind of has like a ranger look to him with that bow and the cloak and stuff, kind of Aragorn-esque. And no, that kind of armor, it existed. It was period for the Roman period to parts of the medieval period. So I'm down with it. I like it. I mean, the materials would be different. It would have been steel, but it's cool.
So I think this is again where, like Hux was saying, we're finding more about Bavmorda and a bit more about the fact that he's really a traitor.
Mm-hmm.
But he's decided that he's, he knows what his responsibilities are now. He wants to do the right thing.
Right. This is kind of his threshold moment, if you will. He's accepted his call and knows what he has to do. He's bought into the cause. So
yeah, they got kind of a mix of armors going on there. You can see some like the guy that was talking. I said Sorsha. He kind of has a Roman centurion look with that crest over his helm and the transverse.
Yeah, exactly. So this is the first sort of battle scene between the two different armies that we see. This little skirmish is the right word, isn't it? Skirmish.
Yeah, a little light skirmish, yeah.
Yep.
I buy it.
When you get a sense too that our X-Men here were disciplined, like they didn't rush right out. They waited in ambush and they're following his instructions, and you get to see a little bit that he's quite the fighter with that dagger throw after he takes the guy down. So again, I just they frame Arik so well as a great hero, and he just feels so underutilized. Such a great fringe character that it seems like a waste.
This bit here reminds me of Labyrinth. This special effect here, I think it's a model or a green screen. I'm not sure, but
this is a matte shot. Actually, you've got a set in the foreground, and then they're doing a matte shot in the back.
Yep.
Labyrinth would have only come out a year or so earlier than this.
Yeah, year and a half.
About the same time, yeah. This film lost out to a bunch of other films like Vice Versa, Labyrinth, Who Framed Roger Rabbit. Almost every category it was nominated for was beaten. Because, again, like I say, the 80s, it was stiff competition. Throughout the 80s, there was that much stuff being made, quality stuff, that, you had to have a good film. And there was a choice, you had a choice. I remember, it wasn't quantity, it was quality. It was like there was maybe two or three decent movies, maybe a month, or one decent movie a month, but it was a good movie.
Yeah, they're all classics now. So here we go. This is where he turns her. Look deep into those brown eyes.
Yeah, I mean, she was a very attractive woman, definitely.
Look at Willow on that gigantic. Punches him in the throat, kicks him in the inner thigh.
Yeah.
Ow. Thanks, lady.
So, obviously, his reason for not going back to get her again is that they've got to hurry up and get to where they need to go. So, at this stage in the film, we're about, three-quarters of the way in, or two-thirds at least. And then they look at each other again. And
wistful look, yeah.
Yeah, definitely. And we're about, like I say, two-thirds of the film, and the pace is starting to sort of really speed up now.
I like the fact that Kael's horse has his devil horns on the
Well, and again, it kind of matches Arik, right? Like we frame Arik out as this great hero, and we frame Kael, like I was saying earlier, out. He's this great villain. Yeah. And again, we're just not utilizing him because we're Lucas and we're very focused on just doing this simple story. And again, we do these minor arcs between characters very well, but we miss out on the opportunity.
Yeah, this scene here, the missus pointed out to me that this is reminiscent of the Lion, Witch, and the Wardrobe, that everybody's been frozen by the evil witch queen. So this whole kingdom's been cursed, and as you can see, everybody's encased.
Scarecrow to Oz, I believe. But the Scarecrow of Oz also has this general theme where the Emerald City is frozen.
Yep. And there we discover there's trolls.
The obligatory Lucas poop joke.
Yeah, that's it. Well, one of the things about this film is that some of Lucas's contemporaries sort of criticized it, but he sort of misses out on a lot of the entertainment tricks that he would normally use and plays it a little bit safe. But the other thing that comment on is that it's clearly written for a young audience. One of the other movies at the same time, Princess Bride, which I'm sure we'll do sometime soon, was released at the same time, much more successful on a much lower budget. But I mean, the thing about this is it still managed to do moderately well financially. It wasn't a flop, but it did well because of the video rights, VHS video releases and stuff like that, because the kids who saw the movies, asked their moms and dads to get them the video for Christmas or whatever. So it did well, afterwards, and the video sales, helped to make it a financial success. So there's something to be said for it. And that's why it has a really popular following now, because a lot of people remember watching it as a kid, and as a kid's film, it's really entertaining, definitely.
Yeah, it is. Mad Morgan's helmet is utterly ridiculous. Why would you have it on top of your helmet?
I was going to say, I missed the whole scene where he went into the armory there. What did you think of that?
The rest of the armor is kind of cool. It looks like a leather brigandine with supplemented by bronze plates here and there. He's got some mail around his ass and around his groin, which is something you'd want. And he's got brass or bronze greaves on. So I did. You wouldn't use bronze because you have steel. So, but other than that, I dig it, except for the helmet. The helmet's utterly ridiculous.
Yeah.
So this place they're at has been cursed by Bavmorda, and kind of more of the backstory that was left out. This is actually where Sorsha's father is from, and in one of the drafts, that's one of the things that kind of brings Sorsha over to their side, is her father talks to her.
Yeah.
But this sequence is pretty cool too, because they actually, again, it's something that's not often done. They're showing them chop down the tree they're going to use for a battering ram.
And so the pace here is really fast. I mean, literally within 2 minutes, they've got to there. He shut the doors. He's set up everything he needs to do. They've created a battering ram. So like in 2 or 3 minutes, it's just gone from nothing to the whole battle.
Right. And if you go back to Crawl, this is kind of, I hate to just keep on harping on Crawl, but using Crawl as an example of what not to do versus all these films that do all this other stuff so well is kind of so important for what I'm trying to do as we talk through all these films. Yeah. And it's just a really good, I love the double crossbow there. That's pretty cool.
What's that sword he's got, Karl?
What's that?
The sword that he selected?
I didn't really get a good look at it. It looked like just a standard arming sword.
Yeah. We go with the special effects again. This is pretty freaky.
Body cutting itself apart.
Oh, dear me. This is stuff. Is that stop frame, isn't it?
Yeah, this is all advanced. A little bit of CGI, but most of it's all stop motion animation.
Yeah.
Using the same go flow that they were using for the dragon in Dragon Slayer. But again, we've advanced beyond it.
Yeah. This really. Sorry, go ahead there, Karl.
Ask back to a point Hux was making was they wrote Sasha's father out of the film. And was he a living character, or did she go back here and meet him as a ghost? Do you know?
She kind of speaks to him in his frozen state. It's it was like a magical moment kind of thing.
I got you. All right, his sword it looks like a it's just like a standard longsword.
Yeah. So here we have the Rancor. Now this did scare me because one thing Lucas does well is he uses there's a bit of a comedy moment where Morrigan runs out of the fortress and they're standing right beside them.
Yeah.
And they don't really realize for a second. I mean, it's a trope, isn't it? But never mind.
Yeah.
But the low frequency sounds that he uses to make you really sort of scared of this monster. But yeah, it's a standard sort of stop frame, I think. But I think it's well done for the day.
Yeah, the blue screens at some of the close-up shots are pretty disappointing, but the model-based shots are excellent. Again, you can kind of see if you compare this to the Rancor, it looks a lot better. And again, we're only 5 years after Return of the Jedi, so shows you the advance of special effects.
Yeah,
and this is actually this creature is the Ebor Sisk creature named after Siskel and Ebert.
Yes, that's right. Another sneaky criticism of the film critics. There's crossbow trap there, and more crossbows. Pew pew. And this two-headed monster is really Lucas's version of a dragon. He thought, well, I've got to put a dragon in somewhere. Here, Willow tries to use one of his magic acorns. Doesn't work because he drops it.
But it does turn the board to stone.
Yes, which is odd. It would turn his pouch to stone if it did it to the board.
There was also a flaming arrow up the back hole there as well.
Right.
What's going on? Not be able to cover it all. I like the bit where it tears it in half. Yeah.
There we go. I mean, you've got the same sort of punch sound effects, music that you're familiar with from Indiana Jones, Star Wars, same sort of stuff going on, you know. And here, the character of Sorsha's starting to fall in love with
she sees him
Morrigan even more. Yeah, because he's a high tea gent, the way he fights.
He's so high, and she's getting thirsty.
Yeah, that's it. Like, and there's
number one right here.
Schumann's Third Symphony playing in the background there.
It is. It is.
And that's two-handed swords. Sorry, not two-handed. What do you call it when you have a sword in both hands? What's that fighting method?
You can call it whatever you want. It wasn't really done super historically on a battlefield, but like dual wielding or whatnot. But he's using two basically European long swords in each hand, or each hand, I should say.
Well, I think it's done just to show his skill, because everybody talks he's good. And so it kind of, plus I love that shot where Sorsha is looking up at him, kind of in like impressed.
Yeah.
I think this is really what impresses her, the way he jumps onto the head of the beast.
Ballsy.
Yeah, and this is probably, that sequence is probably the weakest of all the special effects in the movie. It's just not handled very well.
Yeah. And now Willow's got the stage where his courage is bigger than his stature, and he's taken on two full-grown men in the fight.
Yep, we've reached a point now where he's doing some acts of conflict and facing his own demons.
Yep,
getting over them for what's best for the child. This is a cool sequence too with the dragons.
I've just noticed there's a continuity problem there. That sword that he put through that monster's head would have to be twice as long. Here we go. Bang! Sticks one on him. There you are. That's the woman who knows what she wants.
Nothing gets him like a man in armor.
That's it. This is a bit where the bang. And now the beast is dead. I never got why, if one of the heads explodes, the whole thing dies.
Shared nervous system shock, maybe? I don't know.
Yeah, he has the... There, you talked about that weapon, Karl, didn't you? The glove sword.
Yeah, that's a Indian Mughal weapon from like the 15, 16, 1700s called a pata, P-A-T-A. Yeah, they were, a lot of times they were super ornamental with gilding and things like that. And it's a legitimate weapon. it was used. They could come double-edged or single-edged, and I guess it had the advantage of having the gauntlet already attached to it. So I mean, it kind of limits what you can do with your wrist, but you have the superior protection of knowing your hand's not going to get hurt.
Yeah. We have the pathos scene here where done quite well, where Warwick comes out injured.
Yeah.
Elora's gone.
Right. And the scene where Kael's riding through too, it's kind of well done, and his men kind of form a wedge and kind of split the opponent cavalry so that he can ride right through.
It's a bit of
that was a tactic that was used by the Crusaders a lot. They'd form a cavalry wedge to ride through.
The Normans often used it as well. Well, it'd be the Crusaders too, but the Normans used it in the invasion of Britain.
Yeah. Well, it comes from an old Viking technique for breaking up a shield wall. They called it the boar's head.
Yeah.
The snout.
Yep.
And you'd crash into a shield wall with your shield wall that was formed into a point, and you just break right through it. Probably comes from the Romans too.
Yeah, they had wedge formations. They were usually used to outflank. You had a wedge would go in on the flanks of a shield wall to try and disrupt the line. But they would have archers and wedge formations as well. So
this is a cool sequence here where they're outside Bavmorda's castle, and it's something you don't see too often in really sword and sorcery films at all, let alone some historical stuff. And it's an army going to camp.
Yeah. I like the way they've done the fortress as well. That's well made. This was filmed in New Zealand, the outside scenes where the castle is. But it's suitably dark and dingy. So this is where the queen's learned their daughter has betrayed her.
Right.
And this is one of the other memorable scenes of look at those helmets there. As well, there's lots of different influences. That guy on the left's like wearing like sort of a weird animal skull helmet. I saw some other people earlier wearing like Napoleonic style helmets. There's a lot of different influences. This is the bit where Bavmorda turns them all into pigs.
Yep, that's right.
Now I remember this freaking me out when I saw it the first time. Because for the day, it was done so well.
Yeah, I think it's coming up. Yeah, right here. Is it right? There's a scene coming up when they show him writhing. That, one of the guys that's in RX Army looks like he's wearing like a cuirassier hat.
That's it, yeah.
Let's look for it. Let's look for it.
I mean, sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say, this is bad choice number 2 of Mad Mardigan after launching himself from a catapult. Is not wearing a helmet, especially at a siege. When there are rocks and arrows,
big teeth,
slinging down upon you. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, this is freaky.
That's but for the day, I mean, watch it now. It's still a bit freaky, but because you can see it's all done with editing. You're not seeing any morphing. But for the day, it was suitably well done.
Shoulder.
Yeah.
There you go, Pete. English Bill right above Bavmorda's shoulder.
And that is freaky. I bet you this is probably one of Peter Jackson's favorite movies as well. I'm sure he likes this. But we see Willow in the tent there, like protecting himself against this, because it's all down to Willow now. Willow has to stay protected so that he can then transform Finn back into a woman.
Yep, there's the cuirassier helmet right there.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
So you see them in various stages of. I don't know how they did that. I think they had him lie in the ground with half a pig attached to him.
Yeah.
No pigs were harmed in the filming of this movie. Now, this is disturbing. This is one thing in the film that I always think is like
strapping a baby down. Yeah,
they couldn't do this now. No way. I mean, this sort of, shall I say, satanic rite over the baby. She looks like a mummy there with the waddling cloth, desiring immortality like a pharaoh, I suppose.
That's actually a really good point. I never thought about that.
Yeah.
Yeah, they carry the motif all the way, so to speak.
Yeah. And So that's the ultimate nature of this evil, that it's all about, child sacrifice, which is harks back to the racial memory of pagan cultures, a lot of them are based on human sacrifice, things like that.
Yeah.
So this is the beginning. This is what, you get two things going on here. This is Willow approaching the end of his cave journey and getting ready to face the final ordeal. Because again, he still has doubt. He, the sorceress is still entrapped in animal form. He hasn't successfully cast the spell to break his mentor free. And this sequence too is probably the pinnacle for the film as far as special effects go. This morphing sequence is just beautifully well done.
Especially when it turns into I don't want to preempt for the people watching if they haven't seen the movie before, but right towards the end of the sequence, it's really amazing. Still by today's standards.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, this is held up very well. We go from tiger to woman, and it's almost seamless. It's just so well done. And I remember seeing this as a kid and just being blown away by that. And the other thing I like, this is something that a lot of movies don't do well. In fact, even Karl, to talk again about Karl, we had a transformation and she's naked. She's not clothed.
The other interesting point as well, she says here, has it been that long? Because earlier she says, what are you really? Well, I'm actually a young woman. So she's been trapped as an animal for probably 30, 40 years at least.
Right.
That gives you a perspective of how long this has been going on.
Yeah, the Bavmorda has been slowly consolidating her power and eliminating opponents.
Yep.
And RX Kingdom was the last one, and then she defeated that army. So. Yes,
absolutely.
It almost has like a Wicked Witch of the West and the Glenda Witch of the North feel to it, doesn't it?
Yeah. And it's also, as I say, it's reminiscent of Narnia as well.
Mm-hmm.
So this is a pretty horrendous ritual that's going on here.
Creepy druids.
Yeah.
Yeah, that seems to be a common theme too. That immortality inherently involves blood sacrifice of some sort.
Mm-hmm.
You see that with vampire myths and legend. You see that with historical examples. People do that stuff.
Yeah. So this is the Rebel Council. The X-Army. That's Mon Mothma.
Yep.
And you even get the equivalent of I've bullseyed womp rats in just a second. There you go. Wait, back on my village, I bullseyed womp rats. How we get inside the Death Star castle.
Right.
You see, this is this theory that a director or a writer is just writing the same story over and over again.
Well, they are. That's especially Lucas. Like, we could do a whole thing where we walk through almost, except for Howard the Duck, because nobody should ever have to watch Howard the Duck.
Yeah.
But if you watch all of his other movies, he's very tropey. He follows archetypes and tropes very directly. You can tell if you watch the old Flash serials from the 30s, his influence is directly from those. It's that very Saturday morning action movie. And even his dialogue, he reuses the same phrases very frequently.
It's a shame that the guy Gavin O'Hurley didn't get more leading roles, because he's got the sort of like the appearance of somebody who could have played some really good heroic roles in cinema, but he just didn't get the opportunities. I don't know why. This is a fairly minor point, I'll say very quickly. Both castles in this movie have moss growing in between all the bricks. I don't know why they do that, but right. So, anything to say about his hooks? The abandoned encampment.
Oh, it's your standard ploy. It's kind of an invert of the Trojan horse. And it's also it's very very much foreshadowing as well that the army, you don't see the army here. All you see is Willow and the sorceress, because really they're the only two threats to Bavmorda.
That's a good point.
And here we have the point where finally, Finn says to Willow, "It's you that's made this all possible." So it becomes the epicenter becomes Willow at this point, and Lucas's thing, his shtick, is all about the little guy versus the world.
Right. In this sense, literally the little guy.
Yeah.
And if you view the hero's journey as a bridge, Willow has just crossed the bridge, and now he is on the other shore, and he's going to face his ordeal. This is the beginning of his ordeal. That everything has led up to this moment, in this engagement. And then we have Kael again with the face mask up. And I think if Howard were to do this now, based off his experience, he probably would have left that face mask down. I think it might just be youthful exuberance of not understanding the intimidating factor of a villain.
And of course, we know today's world, kale really means a really healthy vegetable. That's right. That doesn't taste so great, but it's good for you. I like this sort of leather armor that they're wearing. It's sort of it's different from the norm.
Oh, you like it? It's I hate it.
I know you hate leather armor. Here we come. So, and there's the brownies joining as well. I do like those helmets, the Greek style helmets. I think
and right there, that was we had a Wilhelm scream.
And now they're in the castle.
Yeah, this extended fight sequence here it's always been my favorite part of the movie. When I was a kid, I used to fast forward the VHS just to get to the fight sequence.
Is it just raining in that room, or is it raining everywhere?
I believe just in there.
Now we got rain. Good. Dark magic has summoned forth the wrath of God, and it's raining.
Yeah. Well, the battle scene looks extra authentic if it's raining, apparently.
Gritty. They're going for gritty.
That's something Lucas ripped straight from Kurosawa, without a doubt. And I'll fight people in a car park over that.
I love that. I love that sequence where Bavmorda's men have a shield wall, and they drop down to their knees with the archers behind them, and then stand back up. Here
comes the boiling oil.
All good stuff. So I don't know why you'd have the boiling oil
being able to tip inward.
It's
even positioned on the back of the wall. You'd want it on the front of the wall.
What about Sorsha's sword, Karl?
The blade. I mean, you see stuff like that in like the there's like a German sword called a Dussac. It's a Renaissance sword that does kind of have like a saw back blade to it. It's kind of like those proportions. It's like it'd be like 1600s. It would be that 1600s. It would have been that style.
Yeah.
So I mean, they're just mixing styles.
So Hooks,
it's just a really big pumpkin carving knife.
Yeah, Hooks. Why do we see Finn going in to confront Bavmorda and not Willow?
This is archetypal combat. So you have Bavmorda represents kind of like what Karl was saying, the White Witch and the Dark Witch, but there's also 30 years of history here.
Yeah.
And so you've got to have the trope. And then most importantly, she has to fail before Willow can come in and do what he is destined to do, which is to be the hero.
All right.
It's a bit like Gandalf and Saruman.
Yeah, exactly. And they're in not Minas Tirith. What the fuck? Which one is it?
Right. And then you also have the daughter in there. The daughter, she's going to do something terrible to her daughter to show her pure evil. Because that's her. At this point, there's still maybe a hope for redemption. And this is going to show you that no, we are fully encased in the evil at this point.
Yeah, she's all out just to save herself. Which is the contrast. Her wanting to kill her, well, not just kill this murderous baby, but kill her own daughter, is the contrast with Willow and Man Mardigan's desire to protect a child which isn't even their own daughter.
Right. And then also you have what's her name? The white sorceress dressed in white, and
Brinzel.
Bavmorda is draped in Brinzel is in white with even white hair, mind you. And then you have Bavmorda with dark hair, gaunt features. If you look at her face is actually getting more sullen than it was before. Like
she's sort of dying. Now, I don't know whether that's because she's using her power to do what she's doing, or this is the appointed hour where she's about to die and it's catching up with her. Here we go, fire and ice, standard archetype.
But then also cut into this is going to be the back and forth between Arik and Kael, which is I love that fight, that sequence.
Yeah,
it's great. I want to see more of that and less of this.
Exactly. That was one of my gripes as a kid with this movie. I didn't get to see enough of the sword play, mostly this esoteric stuff.
I like this bit because she's struggling to get to the wall.
Yep. So now you have the mentor has been incapacitated.
She cackles.
Yeah.
I like that bit.
That laugh.
Yep.
And of course,
this is the play dead trick.
Yep. It's very tropey.
This scared me as a kid.
Yeah.
She's poking her.
They're fighting over the wand.
Now, you were saying about the fight between Mad Morrigan and the general. You would have preferred to have seen more of that than this scene here.
Yeah, I think this is a mistake in the film. I think this is too drawn out. Although I do like that moment there where the wand animates the brazier.
Yeah.
And it kind of follows where it's really good stop motion work. I'd like to see it move a little less fluidly though, since it was metal. I want to see a little more crank. And now we're back to what I want to see. This is Arik and Kael's battle here.
Yeah.
You can see that they're both exhausted. They've been beating the hell out of each other.
And they got in close, so they went for the. You can see his sword is now useless because he's so close to him. So he went for his dagger, and it bit him in the ass.
This is it. I mean, having a sword like that, you can't really change the way you're holding it, the position.
There's advantages and disadvantages to it.
Yeah,
this is it's just disappointing. Like you get the impression they cut to the fight, right, and they just engage, and then you get this long drawn out sequence in the occult room. And they come back, and all you see is Arik's death scene. You don't see, any of the fight. So Arik is presented as this great hero that's strong throughout all of this and has been a good fighter. And then you miss him being heroic at all. And then you get, of course, Mad Morrigan, who is presented as the hero now, is going to go and engage. And he puts Arik's sword on, which, of course, carries forth that trope, just as Willow is going to use the wand and his power to defeat, what's her name? Bavmorda. He just used his friends, who he redeemed in his eyes, his weapon, and now he's going to fight. And we've got some excellent, just good choreography work here.
Kael's sword is very, very Renaissance-y.
There we go. So there's the moment where the mask is destroyed.
Yeah, and see, I know I'm harping on it, but I've thought this for years. Like, that just should be the first moment you ever see flesh underneath that mask. Mm-hmm. Then this is cool here on the stairs. Anytime you see a sword fight on stairs, I always think of Errol Flynn's Robin Hood.
Absolutely. Basil Rathbone.
Yeah.
It's a bit of Sorcerer's Apprentice to this whole thing with the living metal pot as well.
Absolutely.
Again, is that
right there is a disadvantage of leather armor.
That was a broken blade, wasn't it?
Yeah, he breaks Arik's blade the first time he engages down below.
He kills him with the broken. Mind, this guy takes some killing.
And this is why you do not wear leather armor.
Yeah, yeah. You can see how big Pat Roach was.
Oh,
This is great too. It uses both Eric's blade and then Kael's own blade to kill him.
Yeah.
Just very very finality for storytelling. And of course the classic kick him off the
ledge.
Yep.
Merry Christmas, etc. Oh no, Yippee-ki-yay, wasn't it? That was it.
Yeah.
Pat Roach was 6'5". He's a big lad.
Here we go. Here's Willow's moment to shine.
Mm.
There's not a whole lot of like physical symbology on the walls or anything you could kind of glean any meaning from, is there?
Nope. No, it's very straightforward. Not a whole lot of depth at this point. This is just about the ending, just focused on Willow and Bavmorda, and you get the sense again, man. If you look at her makeup, like there's just dark power. She looks even more worn than she did when she was engaging Fin Raziel.
Yeah, and this is a bit where he tries to use the acorns and almost works, but because she's quite powerful, she's able to fight back against it.
Or you hit her with another one.
Well, he has 3, right? And he's only used 2. The problem is they cut a scene out where he uses the second one. So it's always bothered me for years. Why doesn't he throw another one until I found out that the scene was cut?
Ah, didn't know that. So this is where Willow seems to be completely powerless, and she now orders him around to do what she wants.
Right. She's like, if that's the best you got, you're nothing.
And we're only literally about 3 minutes away from the end of the film at this stage.
Well, now you have Willow has accepted the ordeal. He's facing off. And he's facing off with he's an everyman. You got to keep that in mind. He has no special powers unto his own. Everything's inside him, is what the wise man in the village told him. So he's approaching it as only he can as a hero with no power. He's going to use his guile.
Yeah. And again, it's a bit like, the unexpected. She's like the Emperor in Star Wars going against the unexpected. The little guy she's overconfident, doesn't see him as a threat at all. And now this throws her. She doesn't understand how that's possible. Makes a mistake with the sacrifice blood. And this is quite a good effect coming up here. What would this kind of effect we're seeing here?
Yeah, this is the same style of overlay animation and CGI manipulation that's used. It was actually used in Conan. It's just done a little bit better here for the death sequence. So you're seeing the same kind of thing. It's really well done.
Yeah. So there she's...
and Bavmorda is no more.
Now the denouement of tying, untying, etc. Mad Morrigan comes through the door just too late. Literally, within the last 2 minutes of the film, we untie everything very quickly. It's done very fast. It's literally, everything's fine. Final scene, Willow goes home, end of movie.
Yeah.
You can literally count it in seconds.
Mm-hmm.
So Willow gets a spell book.
Oh, so this is back in that town that got frozen. Was that her dad, the old dude with the beard? They just don't say.
Yeah. So this
yes.
Is
yep. This is Tiraslee, where she was from. And again, that's one of the other things that was in the early script, was it talked a lot more about the backstory in the prologue about how Bavmorda formed an alliance with them and married the king, and then had Sorsha, and then betrayed him. And raised Sorsha as her daughter. And so you get like I said, like the movie does a great job of offering depth. Like you really get the sense as they're moving through that there's depth and there's more of a story than what you're seeing on the surface.
Mm-hmm.
And but it doesn't add to any of it. It's just really, really done loosely. It doesn't make it a bad movie. It doesn't make it a terrible movie. It's a lost opportunity. And it's something that if you're writing you know, that's something you can consider when you find yourself in that kind of a situation. Give it a little bit more depth, and it adds more to the hero's journey. It adds more to all your characters.
And here we are back in the Shire. I mean, the Elwyn village.
Right. Yeah, to your point, I mean, it would have added a lot to this movie to have that background stuff kind of shown or explained a little bit. And you could have done it. You didn't have to spend too much time doing it either.
There we are. So
there we go. There we go.
And a last little joke there. So you now see Willow's come back a different person. In the final shot where he's reunited with his family, which is the most important thing, of course.
Right.
Which is why he's done all of this. You know, men don't go after fighting wars for king country. They go after fighting wars to protect their family. At the end of the day, that's my opinion anyway.
Yeah, on that, one of my favorite lines in Last of the Mohicans is where the British officer asks, you know, there's a war going on. How are you headed west? So I face south and turn left real sudden like.
And there we go. And the film ends on that note. Fantastic shot there, which of the village in this landscape, which is the backdrop's green screen from a photograph of a place in China with these wonderful hills.
Yeah, it gives you a sense of the fantastical.
Yeah, it's something out of the ordinary. So overall, thoughts, gentlemen?
I'll start off. I liked the movie. I liked it since I was a kid. It was fun. Hux pointed out, you know, there's not a lot of depth to the story. You're not going to learn anything new, and it's not going to be groundbreaking. But I think as far as a pure fun adventure for the targeted group, which is, you know, preteens and that kind of age group, I think it does the job right. It's good. It's fun. I liked it when I was that age. So, okay.
And Hooks?
Yeah, it's a great kids movie. It's a great young adult movie. It does everything right for it, for the story. It does everything right for what you want to do. I would compare this probably most aptly to a moving picture book for a young adult. Not too much depth, not too much great. The pictures are there to, you know, spur your interest and draw your eye. But overall, it's just a simple story wrapped in a very nice package, but executed very well. Technically, it's a very well done film. The camera work is excellent. Editing is solid. Acting is top shelf. So it's a good movie.
Yeah, I think it still stands up even now. A lot of films from this era, you know, when you watch them now, are outdated in some way or another. It doesn't fall over as a film, in my opinion, but equally, it's not in the top 3 or top 5 of fantasy genre films, I would say. However, it's still very entertaining, and I fully understand how it's still a popular film with a strong fan base. I mean, there's some sequences in the movie which, you know, I still remember, and you can easily sit down and watch it and be entertained. It is charming and it's sentimental, and that's one thing about Lucas. He always manages to get, you know, emotional sentiment into his movies, which is why the new Star Wars films are clearly completely departed from what made Star Wars good. It's a shame it didn't have the same energy as Star Wars, this movie. But there you go. I think it's difficult to transfer it from one genre to another, and the fantasy genre, as we've seen, is very difficult to get right. Right, well, that's everything. So thank you to everybody who stopped by and everybody in the chat. And just a quick note, next week we're on a 1-week hiatus, so we won't be here next Saturday, but we will be back after that, the Saturday after that. So don't forget that although we won't be here on Saturday the 16th, I'll be back on the Saturday the 23rd. And with that, thank you for watching.